Hey there, I'm Dr. Todd Miller, Chief Science Officer for Live Lean RX, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what a resting metabolic rate test is. So first, let's have a little discussion about resting metabolic rate itself. You can think of resting metabolic rate as the amount of calories that your body burns when you're just sitting there doing nothing. So for example, if you take a car and you put that car in the driveway and you turn on the engine, but don't move the car, it's obviously still burning gas. The amount of work it's doing is nothing. The car is sitting there, it's just idling, it's not moving. So it's not really doing anything, but the engine is still running, therefore it's still burning fuel. Well, the body works basically the same way. If you're sitting in a chair and you're not doing anything, like I am right now, I'm still burning fuel. I'm still giving off heat. That means I'm burning fuel. Now think about a big V8 pickup truck sitting in your driveway versus a motorcycle sitting in the driveway. And both are idling, but neither one is moving. The truck is going to be burning a lot more fuel than the motorcycle, right? And that's simply because it has a bigger engine. The analogy here is that the human metabolic engine is the part that burns calories, and this is your skeletal muscle. The more muscle you have, the more fuel you're going to burn. You can also think of it like this. When those vehicles start driving around, the pickup truck is obviously going to get fewer miles per gallon than the motorcycle. It's heavier, it has a larger engine, so it's going to burn more fuel, and your body works the same way. The more muscle you have, the heavier you are, the more calories you're going to burn. So one of the most important things to understand about metabolism is that your resting metabolism makes up about 70% of the total fuel that you burn throughout the day. Now, most people don't really consider that. They tend to think that the majority of their calorie burn comes from exercise, but that's not really true at all. So if I burn, let's say for example, I burn 2,000 calories in a day and 70% of my total daily burn comes from my resting metabolism, that means that 1,400 calories are burned just from being at rest. The remaining 600 calories come from my day-to-day activities and my exercise. So it's important, whether you're interested in losing weight or gaining weight or improving your muscle mass, to know how many calories you actually burn. You need an accurate estimate of this. Now, the way most people try to do this today is by using something like an Apple Watch or an activity monitor that estimates calorie burn. The problem with these things is they are notoriously inaccurate. These devices will typically ask you to enter things like your height, your weight, your age, your gender, and then they use a mathematical prediction equation to estimate how many calories you're burning. So the problem with this is that your metabolism is affected by more than just age, weight, height, and gender. It's also influenced by things like your diet, what kind of exercises you do, how much muscle you have, thyroid function, a whole host of things. So a much better way to determine your calorie need is actually to measure how many calories you're burning at rest. This is done with a resting metabolic rate or an RMR test, and these can be done at any of our Live Lean locations. So this gives you a much more accurate picture of how many calories you need throughout the day. And this is critically important if you're trying to lose or gain weight. So let me show you an example of how wrong these prediction equations can be. Now this graph shows data for 60 people, all of whom have had their resting metabolic rates measured with an RMR test. Each blue dot represents an individual subject, and the number inside the circle is the percentage difference between their measured RMR and the predicted RMR, which is represented by the red line. So for example, this individual here is above the red line, so their RMR is higher than predicted, and the number inside the circle is 28, meaning that their actual metabolism is 28% faster than predicted. This person here is below the red line, so their RMR is 19% slower than predicted. So as you can see from the graph, very few people actually fall on the red line. So what that means is these equations aren't giving you an accurate prediction of somebody's RMR. So if you're trying to design a fat loss plan and your caloric prescription based on your activity monitor is off by 20 or 30%, then you're going to have a very hard time reaching your goal. And in some cases, you'll be overfed and you won't have any progress. In other cases, you'll be underfed, which risks muscle loss and makes sticking to your plan much more difficult. So I can't stress enough how critical it is to have your resting metabolic rate measured so that you can get a clear picture of what your caloric need actually is. So how do we do a resting metabolic rate test? So RMR tests use a technique called indirect calorimetry. And to do this, we'll sit you in a comfortable chair, we'll dim the lights, you'll just sit there comfortably and you'll breathe through a tube and into a machine for about 15 minutes. The machine is measuring how much oxygen the body is consuming during this period. Because fat and carbs need oxygen to burn, by measuring your oxygen consumption, we can calculate your caloric burn. For each liter of oxygen you burn 5 calories. So we then take the calories you burn in that 15 minutes and extrapolate that out to 24 hours, and that gives us your daily resting metabolic rate. So if you've been frustrated in the past trying to hit your fat loss goals, it could very well be that your resting metabolism is the issue. So click the link in the description below to find a Live Lean location near you and let us help you get on the right track. Thanks.